Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. I am joined in this episode by Jeff Domansky, and I actually should have had you first before Mary Renat. She was a couple weeks ago, but Jeff is going to talk about crypto, and he's also got some really cool other stuff that he's working on. But I think that there's some foundational things about cryptocurrency, Jeff, that you're going to share, and you're going to put some pieces together that will help people really understand more about it. But other than being a guru in the crypto space, he is also a musician and artist, and he does graphic designs. He has studios, and his current project is Above the Sun Trading Tables that he's doing with a few of our friends, and a big shout out to all of you guys who you are. Well, actually my audience knows who right. So yeah, welcome.
Thanks.
And I'm so glad you're here to clear stuff up for us.
I'll do my best.
All right. So first of all, in segment 1, I really want you to talk about relationships, because heaven is all about relationships.
Right.
And so why it really makes sense. And you were saying something in our Ecclesia group a few weeks ago that really resonated with me about relationships. But we'll talk about that in part 1, and then in part 2 we're going to get into some nuts and bolts about crypto. Fair enough?
Sounds good. Yeah, great.
So, tell us about the relationships in crypto and why that's an underlying foundational piece.
Okay, well, I'll take you back a little bit, how I fell into it, I suppose. Cryptocurrency is a new thing for me too. To be transparent, I've been only in it since December. I really began to look and dig into it. And prior to that, it was one of those things I thought, you know what, it's just a fad. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not, I don't know. Is it that stable?
Yeah.
I had all the same questions that everybody else had. Is it really to be trusted, you know? So I began a dialogue actually with Chris Cedrone, who is one of my partners with the trading tables. And he really began to open up some things with regard to cryptocurrency. And so that began my journey to dig into it. It didn't take long. The spirit upon which I entered into it was wholly inviting. Yeshua was right there. Jesus was beginning to direct me in things I didn't know and in ways I didn't recognize prior to that. But I began to put the pieces together. And so probably around, I want to say January, February, something just clicked. I was talking, I was engaging with Yeshua, with Yahweh, with Ruach HaKodesh, and we were talking about John 17 and unity. And we began to talk about being one with each other. How Christ's prayer for the body is that they would be one as He and the Father are one, and that in the earth we would be the expression of that unity among creation. And so I began to dig into that. And at that time I'm also learning cryptocurrency, getting an idea what decentralization means and the nuts and bolts of how it operates across the globe. And I can't remember the time or day, but I had an aha moment. And I was sitting with Yahweh talking about unity, and then it dawned on me, there's a correlation here. There's a decentralization of Christ in the body, right? We understand that we are many parts of one, and we operate together individually, but together as a whole we represent Christ in creation. And so he began to talk to me and walk me down the road about what does it really mean to be a decentralized member or node of Jesus Christ in creation. And it unlocked a whole lot of stuff. But when that revelation dawned on me, my excitement for cryptocurrency skyrocketed, because I realized there was a picture of Christ in the economic dimensions that we as believers could apprehend, could actually walk in, and a shadow of his government was being represented in this new financial structure. And so for me, that was the green light. I put aside any fears, put to rest any doubts from myself that this was the direction that that the Father wanted me to walk in. And from there, it began to unroll the different aspects of comparing a decentralized body of Christ and a decentralized framework for our financial future. And so, yeah, like just for example, taking the body of Christ and being many members spread out through the globe, the centralization in blockchain or in cryptocurrency, in the nuts and bolts of it, it's hundreds and hundreds of different computer nodes, points across the globe where they share a synchronicity of the data. They have an identical copy of the same thing. And for me, that totally correlates to the spiritual, where we have the same DNA as Christ in us. It's identical, regardless of where you are in the globe. We have the same blockchain, Christ's DNA, that is the historical record of his DNA in us, and it's duplicated over and over and over and over. And it provides a validation with one another. We recognize what does Christ say? They will know you are mine because of your love for one another. It's that DNA in us, the love that is in the members of his body that say this is part of that blockchain, this is part of his DNA. And so there's this correlation that I begin to see. And the other aspects of that is no one man can control the cryptocurrency, the blockchain. No one government can do it. It's completely spread out. It's really, really impossible to bring to duplicate it in such a way that it corrupts the system. And that to me again speaks of Christ, where there's no way to provide a corruption in his body, in a sense of how do I say, the genuinity of his spirit, of his being, is verified over and over and over again, and you know it's true because it's being duplicated, and you can verify by the spirit that's in another that they're of the same. And so there's the validity that we see a genuine spirit that is represented in those who are part of his body, and you can tell the difference between the sheep and the wolves when you're living in the truth, when you're surrounded or you're operating upon the same DNA structures found in his body. Yeah.
Wow. So I never really, equated the body of Christ or us being united in that way to blockchain. But then again, I don't understand blockchain. So I'm looking forward to you explaining that a little bit more. I mean, I kind of get it, but I'm just not techy enough, and then I want somebody to explain it in words that I understand.
I get that, yeah.
All right. So I know when I was first getting into it, and you and I had a conversation, and either that or we were in a group, and I was wondering what makes a good crypto coin, and you said relationships. So could you explain that?
Okay. Trying to remember what I said specifically.
Well, I think it was about, you have to look at the community around the coin, is what you were talking about?
Right, yes. So
Yeah.
what gives value to a cryptocurrency, a coin, a token, whatever you want to call it, is the consensus of the community. The community says this is a value, and we're going to back it. We're going to back it with our money. We're going to back it with our loyalty. We're going to back it with our activities on the blockchain, in the community, in the network. And they become the fans, and then as the fans increase, then the value increases. But it's a faith-based concept, truly, where a consensus is made among the community members, whether it's 2 or 50 million people. They say this is a value, and that's driven by the use case. The use case is, what is this coin going to be used for? What is it backed by? Whether it's gold or some other sort of asset or some sort of service, right? The whole community says this is valuable. This service is valuable. The asset that's backed by gold is intrinsically valuable. So this coin is valuable. And what we discover is that it's the relational connection between the members that arcs together to create that value. Because when it stands on its own, it's just another piece of technology. It's just another object. Humanity is what gives things value, right? And so for instance, we think of the US dollar or whatever fiat currency, paper money, you want to call it. And it's backed by faith. It's not backed by anything of a real value. But because the government says it's worth something, or the community, the industries, the retailers, they'll take that as tender for legal transaction. It's recognized. Whether it's worth of anything of itself, I mean, the paper dollar is worthless, really, compared to the metal assets that are out there. It's nothing. But because the community, because the culture says it's a value, it is a value. When that value begins to diminish and the community decides that it doesn't trust that any longer, it loses its value. And so you see a shifting away from something that is of value into something that's of greater value. And that's what's happening even right now across the globe, is more and more people are waking up and saying cryptocurrency is a legitimate platform for economic, financial stability. And as it continues to be embraced, it will continue to be more stable. It will increase in value. That's all because the community, the culture, the relationships, down to the individual, say it's a value. And that's a direct correlation to what heaven is built on. Heaven is built on relationships. Its currency is relationships. It does everything. It creates everything through an arcing of relationship, where two come together, something is created. It develops something, it shapes, it creates a framework around the future of what the Father wants to do. It's all done through relationship. And so, as we say in the Above the Sun's train tables, relationship is currency of heaven. It's relational coin, call it relationship coin or relational coin. And it's a real value, and it's an asset that's far greater than anything in the earth or below the sun can produce, whether it be fiat or precious metals or even cryptocurrency. Relationship is a asset that transcends all, because it can be used both in above and below the sun, in heaven and earth. So,
I like that. I'm just trying to go back in my notes from when we were talking. I can't find exactly what we were talking about.
sorry.
So that's it's so, like I said, I'm just so new to crypto that it feels better to kind of get some grounding around it and kind of understand it more in the spiritual kind of way that you've been
Sure.
putting those two together. Yeah, was there something about the quantum relationship that that you just discovered or found out about recently?
Right. Yeah. So the team has been going up, spending time in our mountains, sitting at our table, and engaging with heaven, which is part of a major part of what Trading Tables is all about, is how to build wealth in relationship with heaven, with Father's realms, with those who have been mandated over our lives, right? So we've been spending some time, as we should, there, and we've been engaging and finding some new things unlocked to us. And recently we got introduced to the phrase quantum relational synergy or synocracy or something like that. I have a terrible time saying that word, but a syncing of relationships at the quantum level. Synchronicity. I think I need to say it 5 times to get it right. Yes, synchronicity. That's a good word.
Okay.
So it's a quantum entanglement, and I'm sure your audience is familiar with that term. It's been used a lot more, becoming more ubiquitous in our community. Quantum entanglement, and it's a relational connection at the quantum level. And so that's a kind of interesting thing too, because cryptocurrency is on the fringes of moving into the quantum. It's kind of a crossover transition into the quantum financial system that's being spun up across. Actually, it's going on right now alongside the what we call the SWIFT financial system, which is currently central banks, fiat currencies are all run by the SWIFT, and I can't remember what the acronym is for that, but quantum financial system has been slowly been coming online, and this, I think it was a couple months ago, it did come online officially, and it's been running alongside each other, but it will eventually replace the SWIFT financial system.
So is the quantum financial system? Well, first, there's so many questions we have about that. First of all, does it have to do with quantum computing?
It does. It does.
Okay. All right. And then, is it inherently less corruptible or not necessarily?
It is. It is.
Okay.
It's a weird system because it's a blurring of lines between the physical and spiritual. Quantum in itself is a strange mystery in itself, right? Mm-hmm. And we've been breaking into it over the past 10, 20 years, but I think only in the past 5 to 6 years have we really kind of accelerated into this understanding as it becomes more and more familiar, right? So the way I've heard it said is that the quantum financial system will integrate with DNA structures. It will be able to tell the intents and thoughts and intentions of men's hearts. And it does. This is the spiritual side of it that I've heard being described. But being able to pick up on corruption, I think, is the biggest thing, and know whether this is of heaven or not. It's
that's how Minority Report right there.
You
just said.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff about it, and this is where we say, okay, Father, this is you know way more than we do. You know where we're going with this. As sons, we need to know more and how to partner with you and what we need to do in response or in reaction to this system. Is it something that we need to get alongside? Is it something we need to stand against? So this is things that we as sons don't fully know yet, and so we're kind of, honestly, we're behind the 8 ball on it. And I think
that's the big problem, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah.
Is that the dark side has understood even just spiritual concepts and principles much more than we have because we've abdicated that knowledge,
Right.
But
For
that's a
fear.
good way to look at it. It's like, even, here's the thing, regardless if we're supposed to embrace it or run away from it, I think the important thing is to know about it, because the
Right.
problem is then that we didn't know all of the corruption was going on.
Right. Absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. So this is definitely a season, and I don't know how long the season's going to last. I've heard 10 years of moving into the sun's awakening. They are awakening, but manifesting in their responsibilities. And so this is a training ground. This is saying, okay, we're awake now. We got to get on board. We got to grow up. We're going to start stepping into heaven. We're going to start making decisions alongside the Father as He trains us to administer His dominion in the earth. And so there's nothing to fear, but there's a big learning curve. And we need to grab the bull by both horns and go hardcore after what's in the Father's heart for this. And I think we will experience, those who say yes to this will experience exponential increase in revelation and a major shift in their own personal paradigms as they begin to operate as sons from heaven into earth. Standing in Father's house and standing in the windows of His house and declaring and legislating from there into the earth over these things. We have a huge privilege and opportunity to begin to walk in our inheritance at a greater portion than we've ever experienced as a corporate body of Christ. And so I'm excited. I'm not afraid. I'm actually excited because we are going to see some major changes and beautiful transformation of the body of Christ through this training season and growing into that mature son that we're called to be.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you said the training ground, because so many of us have been in holding pattern and not using it as a training ground. But I think that option is off the table now. I really think that you can no longer just tread water. If you're in Christianity just to have the label,
No.
it's just not going to cut it.
No.
And it is pretty obvious now. You can't just be sitting in a church pew for 40 years, like check in, check out, got that one done this week. It's just not like that anymore. God is really calling us up to a higher level and a higher responsibility and duty and relationship.
That's right.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, and there's, I was going to say, kind of an offshoot of this is, I asked the Lord this year, and I was thinking about the process through which Israel, the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, went through a season where Yeshua comes and He basically offends them, right? He's the stone, the cornerstone, and they either fall on the stone and get crushed, or they broken, or they get crushed by the stone. He essentially offends them, and He says, I'm going to take the message to the Gentiles. I'm going to give them your portion for a season. And he was bringing them to a place of jealousy, right? As Paul talks about in Romans, he's using this as a way to bring them back into the vine again, through the jealousy that comes up from watching the blessings poured onto another people group. And I begin to wonder about this as the church. Because Paul says this, don't become so prideful that you become like Israel. And I wonder, even right now in the church, how much of this is starting to happen, where the Father's saying, I'm going to start offending you because I'm going to pour out a blessing upon another people group to make you jealous for your first love again. And so He's starting to put stuff into the secular realm, right? And release technology, release financial blessings, insight and revelation. It's happening out there. I mean, you just look at the New Age. It's coming on. They have been walking in frequencies and all. I mean, I'm getting off track here, but they've been operating stuff that is our inheritance for so long, and the church is either going to wake up to the fact that they've lost their inheritance to the world, or, and I believe this is what the Father's doing, is He's awakening those who have His heart to recognize and begin to shift out of the old wineskin and begin to move into the new thing He's doing, so that they can apprehend and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to play catch up anymore. I'm going to get ahead of the curve. I'm going to be standing in the future when the world comes to see me, because I'll be operating in my inheritance. But I've got to run fast. I've got to be like Elijah and gird up my loins and run, because I got to meet the destiny before it comes. And so He is awakening up the sons of God to manifest, and He's giving them the tools to run faster and harder if they say yes, so that the technologies that has been given to the earth, is given to the world, the revelations of those things will first come through the sons moving forward, rather than the sons trying to catch up and try to apprehend what was theirs in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that kind of brings it right back around then, because as we're exploring the spiritual realm and the tools and the things that the secular world is already using, it is so critical to stay in relationship with the Father.
Absolutely.
The devil comes as the angel of light, and we can so easily be deceived. And
absolutely. Yeah.
And just what adds to the confusion is that He speaks to us in our own language and uses our own experiences to express something or explain something. And so therefore you and I might see, hear, perceive something different. And rather than saying you're wrong and I'm right, I think that it's more about, well, you have a piece of the puzzle and I have a piece of the puzzle.
That's right.
Father, what's the whole puzzle? Who has all of the rest of the pieces?
That's right.
Because we have to do it together, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, because He says, you follow me. That's what Yeshua said to Peter. Who cares if John lives forever? I told you to follow me. So He's making it hard on us by saying, you and I relationship right now. This is where we're at. If I've said this or shown this to your brother, your sister, that's for them to work through and walk through. But you need to go and get your time with the Father, FaceTime, and that's how you mature. That's how He's maturing His sons. Is come up here and let me teach you myself. And I'm going to put things in your way to confuse you and to cause a little consternation. And because I'm not going to let you lean on your methodologies, your flow charts. This is how we're going to do it moving forward. And for those who will say yes to that, I will unlock the kingdom to you. But you got to build it through relationship. And I'm a strong proponent to that. There's nothing better than sitting with the Father, Him speaking to you and teaching you, and because it establishes confidence here, and you have a relationship that's unique unto yourself with Him, and you're able to move and have your being within Him, even though your brother or sister is moving and having their being in a different way, in different facet, and shining their light differently. It's still your relationship with Him. And sometimes you'll go alongside each other, and sometimes you'll go different directions. But like you said, we are operating at different places as intended for our scrolls. And so it's critical, and especially with the quantum, going back to the quantum relationship, it's critical that I operate in my scroll and in the relationship that's tied to it with the Father, so that you can operate in yours. Because without us operating our own scrolls, the whole cannot be cannot be produced. The whole cannot be revealed of the Father in the earth and in creation.
And what I just go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were just saying that, I was thinking, it's like chaos theory. If I don't flap my wings in a certain way, you can't fly over to.
Well, there's something to say about that. Yeah.
Yeah. if I'm not being me, if I'm trying to be someone else or pretend I'm something, then if in the quantum, with all of the way that God already has, everything is counted, everything has a plan, everything has a
Yes.
purpose.
Yeah.
If something doesn't, if I'm not functioning right, my peeps can't function right,
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so we need to bring this on back to crypto and the economy and building the kingdom, because and this Mary Renat a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about this a little bit, is he really wants to see us mature so that we can handle the responsibility
Right. Yeah.
of stewarding the finances to build the kingdom, because everything that we could possibly want to do, feeding the orphans, taking care of the widows, everything that we could possibly want to do takes money.
Yes.
So that's, I think, where we need to step up to the plate and understand how the crypto works, how the relationships of it work, and what is God's plan for it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on any of the that responsibility piece?
I think it's it's about time. It's about time for us to grow up, to mature. We have to shift the way we think about money. We have to shift the way we think about wealth. Father's not afraid of it. He never has been. He's limitless. Therefore, we are limitless. We have a limitless resource in Him. We have to stop thinking about need and lack and want. These three things don't exist in the kingdom of heaven. These are not words that exist in the vocabulary of the speech and language of heaven. So we have to begin to shift away from using those words in our own lives. In the day in and day out conversations we have to stop saying, I can't afford that because, or we don't have enough money for, right? These are all coming out of a source of limitation, out of a source of lack. And so we shift our wants and desires because of our lacks, and not because we live out of a source of unlimited supply. And so it begins here, to change our language, to change the world around us. And we frame up a different world when we begin to use the language of heaven, right? So we begin to understand and begin to say, Father, you are limitless, and because I'm in your house, the fullness therein is also mine. So I need to operate, and this was the first thing I began to say to myself as a way to get through that door, is I need to start thinking like a billionaire. What does a billionaire think? How do they think about finances? They're not thinking in dollars and cents. They're not thinking in 20s and hundreds. They're thinking in the hundreds of thousands, the tens, the hundreds, the millions. It doesn't faze them to drop $100,000 on something. It doesn't faze them to go out to dinner and drop $1,000. This is common experiences for them. This is part of their everyday activities. They lose $1 million and gain $1 million. This is just part of who they've grown into this way of thinking. And we have to start shifting the way we think in that regard. So I was telling myself, I need to start thinking like a billionaire. I need to stop worrying and being frugal when really I'm operating in a poverty mentality. And start thinking, how do I spend my money as if I were a billionaire? I'm not talking about going to debt. I'm not talking about doing this, being stupish or being foolish with my money. But I'm thinking about where I cut corners to save a penny, right? I'm shifting just the way I spend it and not worrying about it. Partly
buying stuff from China because it's 15 cents cheaper.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Or even holding on to your money because you don't know if 3 weeks away from now your car is going to break down, and so I need to make sure, or it's more of the boogeyman even thing. I'm holding on to my money because I don't know outside there's a lion creeping ready to destroy me, right? So I don't make decisions I make them out of fear. A billionaire doesn't make financial decisions out of fear. They're making decisions out of gain, I'm going to make more money. This is a great opportunity, and so their opportunities are high risk in the sense. For us, they're high risk. For them, they're like, this is just part of the job. This is part of who I am, and so you change the way you handle it. You change the way you think about it, and actually, I've been getting to shift away with thinking even about the money itself. This is for myself, because I used to be very worried about where it goes and how it's spent, and I've moved away from fear, which is really critical with your finances, to move into a place of love and delight that Yahweh would actually want to bless you. I think with most believers, if they were to ask the question, does he really want to bless me? Their first answer would be, yeah, of course he does, because it's in the Bible. But their life does not express that. Yeah, your life doesn't reveal that. Your language doesn't reveal it. Your attitude with others doesn't reveal it. Even how you manage what you have doesn't reveal it. And so there's a lot of rewiring and restructuring your language and thought life around finances to begin to open up. And I was just sitting on the couch yesterday with my wife talking about how even in this last year, just beginning that change, there was a click, there was a change. And it became like a magnet. I mean, we haven't been getting thousands and millions of dollars in the bank, but we've been getting an increase. That there's definitely a change in the flow and outflow, the inflow and outflow of our funds in the past year. And we directly attribute it to the change of our heart and our mind with regard to how we relate to wealth and where the Father wants to bless us in that. So
really good.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the time. Wow. This has been so good. We're way over, but that's okay, because we just need to land the plane for this first segment, and then we'll continue the conversation in segment 2.
Yeah.
But AboveTheSunTradingTables.com is where people can join you. They can sign up for this newsletter that gives great information. Is that correct?
Yep. You can follow us and get the weekly posts. Yep.
Okay, awesome. And are you on social media?
We are. We just stood up a Facebook page officially.
Okay.
And it's Above the Suns. You can find it Above the Suns Trading Tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also on Telegram?
We are on Telegram.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing to the SpiritCenteredBusiness.com. Did I say subscribing or just scribing? I've been scribing so much.
So much, yeah.
Anyway, you can scribe and you can subscribe. Thank you for sharing it out there, getting the message out there. I so appreciate all of you, and I appreciate your financial support. You guys who are making donations to Spirit Centered Business is just phenomenal and helps the production. I really and another shout out to Tina for doing this. All right, you guys. Until next time, stay Spirit Centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.